Is LeBron James right about ring culture? Right. So essentially, LeBron James is saying ring culture has gotten out of control. You use it to really negate greatness or negate the greatness of those who don't have rings. Right. Is he accurate? Should he be the voice of ring culture arguments? I think he's the perfect voice for ring culture arguments because ring culture essentially was used to negate him, right? Like when LeBron comes into the league, there is a picture emerging that this is like one of a kind. We've never really seen anybody like this, right? So conversations begin: is this the best basketball player we've ever seen? Talking heads, right? The growth of the hot take industry creates arguments against LeBron to not be that because the majority of those voices are were Michael Jordan fans, right? So in order to protect Michael Jordan, you construct your argument that LeBron is not the best basketball player that you've ever seen because he hasn't accomplished what Michael Jordan accomplished, right? It's essentially rings are going to be used to negate your ever being in the conversation as the greatest player ever, right? So LeBron's critique of ring culture is connected to the fact that ring culture is something that he feels denies an objectivity to his game and to his career. Right? It's we are working from the premise that Jordan is the best, so how can we not negate you? Right? Like how are we not going to tear down what you've done when we're starting from the premise that what you've done will never match Michael Jordan? Is part of what he's doing uh, self-serving, right? Like he wants to expand the conversation because he believes that on the face of it, he should be considered the best basketball player ever. It's not if you agree with that or if you don't agree with that. The larger question is his larger critique is the media created a framework to negate my position or my achievements, right? Like this whole ring culture started with LeBron, right? And LeBron had to leave Cleveland because unlike being in LA or being in Chicago, Cleveland was not a market that was drawing free agents. How were they going to build a team when they were continuously winning over 50 games with LeBron, but they weren't good enough to compete with the elite of the elite? So LeBron leaves because essentially it doesn't matter what he does at Cleveland, even though he had won two MVPs and he had taken a team that was not that great to the NBA Finals. He's saying none of that's ever going to mean anything unless I get the rings because you're saying that that's the only way that I can be in the conversation from Jordan. Not in terms of a basketball player, not in terms of what you see, but in terms of what I accomplish. So I need to go somewhere in hopes of accomplishing something that will allow for you to see my game for what it really is. We got to be honest about that. We got to be honest about the fact that the media and this Michael Jordan fanboys in the media are working from the premise of we're never going to give this guy the credit of being what we've seen, what we think is the best, right? So they're not objective, right? So essentially, he created his own media platforms in order to change the discourse that he knew the traditional media was never going to give him because they have a vested interest in Jordan always being considered the GOAT. Ring culture is trash, right? Like, but I understand why LeBron has these feelings about it because he fell victim to him and Kevin Durant are probably the two most players that I think have been influenced by ring culture. They've been influenced by ring culture because at that time in that conversation it was them and what they couldn't get done that constantly took away from the fact that we were watching two of the best basketball players we've ever seen. That pressure, right? Which is why they respond to that pressure differently, right? Kevin Durant is constantly making sure that people respect the fact that, hey, I went to Golden State, but I was the best player on that team. And Golden State doesn't beat that LeBron team without Kevin Durant. And LeBron is saying, Look, if Kevin Durant doesn't go to Golden State, I have two more rings and I'm sitting at six right now. It's a different conversation. So the ring culture has hurt LeBron and Kevin Durant more than any other player. So when LeBron says something about ring culture, when he calls it out, yes, he's calling it out because he's simply saying, not only did I fall victim to ring culture, but also ring culture was used and is continued to use to negate everything that I do because I'm never going to have as many rings as Michael Jordan. So I'm never, my game is never going to be respected the way that it should. And that's a difference, right? Like when you're a top five player of all time, there's typically this universal love. LeBron is polarizing in part because of his politics, but also in part because people are invested in making sure that he doesn't get the love that they feel should only be for Jordan and Kobe. It's not just that he's not considered the GOAT. It's like that his game is critiqued and shit on more than any other player that we consider to be one of the greats. And that is a byproduct of the media, which is not surprising that he has a beef with the media. So he attempts to create his own media platforms to change the discourse because he doesn't feel like the traditional media is ever going to produce discourse that allows for him to be seen objectively through the lens of love that is given to all these other players. Right? It's like you have your industry is rooted in shitting on me for profit. Saying something negative about me get you clicks, get you engagement. So why would you so this kind of universal love that used to be kind of associated with most sports, right? Particularly when you reach those high levels of success, that's just kind of universal adoration. LeBron doesn't experience any of that because the media made a new lane off of hating. And ring culture is just a byproduct of people being like, how can we say what we're seeing is not the best ever? Oh, it's he doesn't have six rings. Oh, he had to go to Game 7. Right? It's like how let's tear down what he's accomplished because we have a vested interest in Jordan being the GOAT. And again, I don't even give a shit if Jordan's your GOAT, right? What the larger issue is the fact that people seek to make the gap between Jordan and LeBron seem far more vast than it really is. And that's hate.